So my novel, my debut novel, Losing My Religion, was launched earlier this year in February 2014. And Losing My Religion is basically a story of an entrepreneur who goes on to revolutionize the gaming industry, but something somewhere goes wrong, and then he becomes bankrupt all of a sudden, right? And then when he's basically bankrupt, he doesn't know what to do, and he's like soul broken, right? It happens in every entrepreneur's life, basically. So the book captures the life of an entrepreneur, but in a very, very interesting way. So when this guy Rishi, who's a protagonist, who becomes bankrupt, he accidentally meets American hippie, a crazy American hippie called Alex. And Alex is this personality who is like completely opposite to Rishi, from the perspective of how he leads his life. Like an entrepreneur basically tries to go towards a plan. We entrepreneurs, we try to go, take everybody towards a plan, and we try to control the future. That's what we do. On the other hand, a hippie doesn't really care, where he wants to go next, where he wants to have his dinner. He just basically doesn't think about life. He's free from within. So I love the contrast between these two characters, and they come together, and Rishi decides to tag along with him by selling his last remaining thing, that is like a car. He sells his car, takes a little bit of money he's got, and then goes on a journey with Alex across India, and then the story unfolds. What really happens next. So that is the book about on how Rishi comes back and bounces back in his life, told in a very, very entertaining way, because I love to travel myself, and the book is my first novel, and I started writing it in 2009. And the novel started in a very, very interesting circumstances, because the novel starts with inspired by my own life, my own incident. So in 2009, I was on the verge of bankruptcy, basically. So I had started a company in 2007, and it was going great, but the only thing we couldn't do was make money. We had an internet company called jobbyhire.com. We had like millions of hits on the website. We had 1.5 lakhs users back then, which was a good number. Everything is going great, but the only thing we couldn't do was make money. And in 2009, we're sitting there basically thinking, man, what did we do? And then we had gone completely bankrupt. So during that time, I get a call from one of my friend, and he told me that he wants to go on a journey across India. And I thought, okay, maybe somebody is just going on a journey. I said, okay, how are you going to go? He said, I think I'm going to take my bike, and then I'm going to go, and I may not come back for like a year or two. I was like amazed. So this guy was practically quitting his job, taking his bike, and he's just going. He doesn't have a plan, nothing, right? So I was sitting there thinking, I was so bogged down in life. I was thinking, what have I done? And I was thinking I'm like a big failure. And here's this guy who is just quitting everything, his plum job, and then he's taking his bike and just going. So I thought this guy's like a dude, basically. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to quit everything and take my bike or whatever, just go. But I couldn't do that for a variety of reasons. Okay, one of the reasons was I got a call from Canada just the next week, and then this time the call was from a multinational company, and these guys told me that we want to hire you as a CEO for our India division. I thought it's a prank call, to be honest, because one day I'm like practically I have nothing in the bank, basically, trying to think, shut down my company and all that. And the next day somebody wants to hire me as a CEO, and then I was like, haven't you heard? I mean, everybody was writing about me in the blogs and newspapers, basically. So I told them, so why do you hire me? And then, but they told me that the skill, the experience that you got in building your company and getting a kind of traction and building a team, because I had built a very, very great team, high technology team. So they told me that we want that kind of expertise. We want somebody who's gotten his hands dirty, who's gotten the basics right, in the struggle, and who knows how to build a team. We want somebody like you who's young to come and lead a company. I was like, great. I mean, I took up the job because it was a good paying job as well. So at the age of 27, I was a professional CEO, right? You can become your company's own CEO because you start a company and you become a CEO. But to become a CEO of some other company, you need to really, really, know how to do stuff. That's an achievement itself. So that day, I realized that there is no such thing as failure in life, in anybody's career. Had I not taken the risk of starting my company, had I not taken, had I not struggled to get the traction and build my team, I wouldn't have been hired as a CEO for a Canadian multinational. So because of this, I couldn't go on the journey, but this bizarre idea struck in my mind that I should write about somebody who's in my situation. But instead of taking that CEO job, he goes on a journey across India. So that's when I started writing Losing My Religion. And in 2009, I started writing it. And when I started writing it, I experienced a joy that I didn't know that could exist. It gave me such joy. It was amazing. And one thing I told myself that, this is one thing, writing is one thing I'm going to do just for myself. I told myself that I'm going to be the author and I'm going to be the audience. The author in me is going to entertain the audience in me, and I'm not going to care about anybody. I don't care, what people think about my book. I really practically don't care about it. So I think that really worked out very well for me. I started writing it in 2009. By 2013, I had completed my drafts, and I kept on writing it. I had like 14 versions of the story, 155 drafts. I was living in like my own parallel universe, basically in my head with my characters. That was going on. And I started sending it to my friends. They loved the story because it had everything. It had travel, it had romance, it was a thriller, and because I had written in such a way that I was entertained. Basically, that was the whole point. We started sending it to the publishers, and almost all the publishers in India practically rejected my book. Everybody almost, and I was like devastated almost. I was thinking that man, I've written a cool book, but it looks like publishers, somebody is saying that it's a very different perspective. It's very new. We cannot do it. Some told me that we don't know you. You're new in the market. Some told me that the language is not that great. Some told me that the narration is not that great. But everybody loved the story because story was a killer basically, right? So, but then I got an agent. So I sent to an agent called Kanishka Gupta, and basically he loved the book, and he sent it to a few more publishers. So all the publishers not yet over. Let's send it to a few more guys. So luckily, Fingerprint publishers, they found the story to be compelling, and then they thought they should publish it. So what started in 2009, 2014, it got published in February, and then it went on to become like a bestseller. We couldn't believe the kind of response we got from the market, and so when it became a bestseller, when people started getting inspired by the story, that because the underlying message of the book is that if you follow your passion, the world will follow your passion. That's what the underlying message is. And so many people get back to me today. Just the other day, somebody called me and told me that after reading your book, I started my company. I decided to become an entrepreneur. And somebody just told me that I could get over my breakup, and stuff like that. So it's great that apart from just getting entertained, I think people are getting inspired by the book. So that is something that is really, really fulfilling as an author. Yeah, so I had a very erratic schedule. So sometimes I used to start writing, I usually write in the night. I usually write in the night when there is nobody. I just lock in myself in the room, and I start writing. That's what I do. And in the weekends, and whenever I go out and stuff, because during the daytime, my job is so it demands so much of my effort that I'm not able to focus really that much. What really happened when I started writing the book was, initially I struggled, right? I wrote the first chapter of the book, and I actually went to my wife and I told her that I've written a book, and she was like amazed. She was like, when did you become an author? She's never thought about me as a writer, and she was like, okay, and she was so excited. She started reading the book, and she read the first chapter, and she looked at me and she told me that it sucks. She told me that perhaps this is not your forte. This is not, you're good at a lot of things, but this is not perhaps your thing. I was so hurt that day. I was so hurt that I stopped writing. Right. So 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and then I started thinking that this whole feeling is not going. This thing is like coming back at me. Then I started thinking then that why am I getting so worked up about this? When I realized that the only time when you get hurt is when you love something, when you are passionate about something. That's when I realized that I'm going to write only for myself. That's what I did. So what drove me over a period of 5 years is my passion alone, because I was so passionate about the story. And one thing I changed was, initially I started writing in a laptop, and I was just not getting the flow. So then I quit the laptop and I took a pen and paper and started writing in it. So I realized that I was getting an amazing flow to writing the whole thing. So I think that made a lot of difference. So, and I also took out time everywhere in between. So for example, I'm going for a meeting, so my driver is driving me, and in behind I'm sitting and I'm writing the story and editing it. So I think I've rewritten so much already. Like for example, the romance angle between Rishi and Kyra is like a protagonist. I rewrote it 8 times, because I was not really happy with the way it was coming out. And now somebody told me that I have like redefined romance. That's what somebody told me, that because two powerful characters, romance between two powerful characters is difficult to showcase. So yeah, so a lot of commitment, and commitment comes because I was passionate about it. Yeah. So a lot of places that I've written my book, I've visited almost all the places. One thing about travel I have personally noticed is travel is amazing for everybody, because it opens up your mind, and you're reborn every time you travel somewhere, and because it gives you this space in your mind, that your mind starts to think differently, because you're away from your routine, that what's happening in your life. So it frees up your mind to, and then a lot of thoughts get germinated in your mind. Basically, that's what happens. So basically, I wrote about places which I never written before. For example, I wrote about Malana. Malana is this small village in the Himalayas. It's known for the Malana cream, that is the charas. It's like a heaven for hippies. So these two characters go there, and what happens there, So nobody's written about that kind of place, because I'm exposed a lot to the Himalayas. I keep going there. So I wrote about that, and then I wrote about Om Beach. Om Beach is in the west coast, is very close to Goa, and it used to be like a nude beach at one point in time, and a lot of Israeli tourists, and a lot of international crowd there. So I wrote about that. So these guys go there and they take up like a bankrupt shack, and they change it, So I mixed travel with business, with romance. So I got everything that is youthful into the book, because I wanted to resonate with the youth of the country, right? And I also wrote about Kumbh Mela. So everybody writes about Kumbh Mela from a religious perspective. But what is amazing in Kumbh Mela is business worth billions of dollars actually happens in Kumbh Mela, because there are practically like millions of people hitting the tiny town of Haridwar. So I put a challenge on myself. If, for example, I go to Kumbh Mela and I had to set up a business there, what would I do, right? So I put up the challenge, and I made Rishi and Alex go there and crack that market in such a way that it's entertaining as well as very, very practical. So travel was, you know, into the book in such a way that it's all essential, because each place they go, they discover themselves and they, you know, add something to the story. You know, that was the whole point. Yeah. So I think the end is something which nobody can even imagine. It ends in actually New York, and you know, the story shifts from India to New York, and basically there is reality shows as well in the book, and so that is something. I would like the readers to take a look at it, because it's very unpredictable, the ending, and something that they'll love for sure.